Penguins development camp wrapped up with a tournament on Monday, and it was a lot of fun to watch. Pat and I are going to discuss that right after this.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am one of your hosts, Hunter Hodes. You can follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes, joined by my co-host, Patrick Damp. You can follow him on all social media platforms at Synonym for Wet. You can follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins, and you can follow us on Instagram now at LockedOn_Penguins. And finally, thank you guys so much for making this your first listen/watch of the day. We are free and available on all platforms. And Pat, development camp wrapped up with a bang on Monday. And by the way, shout out to all the fans that showed up for this tournament. Pat, you would have thought that this was a full-on training camp or preseason practice based on how many fans showed up to watch these 4 tournament games to end development camp. Shout out to Penguins fans. You guys are the real MVPs, even though this was just a development camp. It was awesome seeing how packed not just one rink was, but both rinks were at the UPMC Lemieux Sports Complex. Parking was very tough, I'm sure, for a lot of fans, but I just wanted to start out the show with that. For anyone that went yesterday, Jens Rock, it was packed, really fun atmosphere. And you saw Team Stevens, Team Patrick, and Team Johnston do a 3-team round robin tournament, and then the top 2 teams from there would go on to play in the final for the Michel Briere Cup. And Pat, it was Team Stevens that won the day and won the Michel Briere Cup. They won both the round robin games, and then they were able to beat Team Patrick in the Michel Briere Cup championship game. There were a few standouts for me throughout all these teams yesterday. Obviously, Harrison Brunick once again was fantastic. It's funny, he got beat pretty bad by Will Horcoff. More on him in just a second, but he got a little bit of revenge after that. Goes bar down to tie it in the second game with 8.9 seconds left, and then he gets the shootout winner. Really nice shot right after Ben Kindle had a shootout goal because they were on the same team. He had a little bit of a greasy goal in the shootout, but it was still nice to see him have that moment because otherwise, I don't want to say like he struggled. I just didn't maybe quote unquote notice him enough, but I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. Anyone that makes a big deal out of that, I think is missing the forest for the trees. He's going to be just fine. I'm not too concerned about it, but Harrison Brunick was once again great. I thought Will Horcoff, when you look at all 4 games combined, I felt like he was the biggest standout. Now, I did see some wild takes online. Some people saying like, oh, you look at these clips, he's going to be a beast in the NHL and all that. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. This is only development camp. I think if he continues to play like this, he could potentially have a big year at Michigan. But that's what I am focused on right now, is a full year for him at Michigan. It's exactly where he needs to be. Michigan is one of the best collegiate hockey programs in the country. They have been for a very long time. This is a great spot for him to keep developing. Again, he was fantastic. He showcased his skating. He burned Brunick really bad during a sequence. He got the puck right outside the offensive zone. Pat comes in on the left side, goes right around Brunick, cuts the net for a nice goal. Another moment where he had a nice power move to the net, goes chop cheese from about 10, 15 feet out. Really nice job there. Again, I thought he was very good. I just saw some wild takes that I'm like, okay, people, let's pump the brakes. It is, at the end of the day, still very much development camp. But again, Horcoff was really good. Harrison Brunick was really good. I thought Penguins 5th round pick Ryan Miller, for someone who is a bit tiny. I mean, you look at him, he's 6 feet. I mean, honestly, when you watch him, he doesn't look like he's 6 feet, but he's a shifty player. And I felt like he had a really good day during development camp. I thought Quinn Bouchane and Bill Zonin also had a really fun give and go with one another during the first game, where Zonin had a nice goal in front of the net. So those are just a few of my standouts from the end of development camp, Pat. I just want to say, man, it was a lot of fun getting up to Cranberry for most of that camp. And again, Penguins fans, even though we are in July, they brought it for this development camp.
You brought up the thing I was going to start with when talking about development camp. What a cool atmosphere that was over the past couple of days, especially, the Monday after a holiday. You figure everybody's back to work, doing their own thing, not really on vacation anymore, but that place was packed. So don't ever try to tell me that Pittsburgh doesn't care about hockey, because Pittsburgh does care about hockey, that they showed up and showed out for a development camp scrimmage tournament that has no bearings on anything, and they were there for it. So that was awesome to see. You sent me some of the Horcoff takes yesterday, and I don't want to beat a dead horse. I don't want to relitigate another take, but I don't like the fact that this sort of like fan war continues among people about, oh, analytics and traditional hockey and blah, 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 blah. The argument itself has become an argument about the argument. Nobody who looks at analytics, which includes us, look at it like it's the end all be all. And no, you got to build your team only on analytics. You can't do anything else. No, it's just another tool in the toolbox. And anybody who tells you that analytics is the end all be all is not a serious person worth listening to. And the same goes for the other end, where someone goes, oh, you nerds in your spreadsheets, not watching the game, blah, blah, blah. Another person, not worth your time, because the smartest people in hockey use both. And that includes the Penguins' current president of hockey operations. Look at the way he's talked about how this team needs to be and how this team needs to grow moving forward. He's not sitting there telling you, I'm finding all the analytical darlings in the world. No, he's telling you they got to get harder to play against. And Horcoff fits that bill. Again, we're not going to overreact to development camp because it's not a traditional camp. It's just a moment for the organization to familiarize themselves with their prospects, figure out where they are developmentally and what they have to do to continue to develop. Horcoff is in a great spot. We may have said, we did say that picking him in the first round was a bit of a stretch. We didn't say he sucked. We didn't say he wasn't worth the pick. We just said it was a bit of a reach to take him late in the first round. The guy is the son of a former NHL player. He clearly has talent because he had a spot on the U.S. development program, which is notoriously difficult to do. That you don't just take anybody. And you said it, Hunter. Michigan's a great collegiate hockey program. They are historically one of the best in the nation and have been for decades. So getting to that program is no small feat. And he's in a great spot to develop. He showed he has talent to grow at that level. And if he does, he can maybe grow into a great NHLer. It's not going to happen overnight. He's not suddenly going to become the next great power forward by next October. This is going to be a little bit, but the talent is there. The size is there. And as annoying as it is that there are a lot of former NHL players, kids getting into the game, it's a pretty good jumping off point for a prospect.
I like him a lot more after seeing him in person over the last, 4 to 5 days, that I did, with the pick at the time. Like, obviously, I looked more into the tape right after they picked him and I liked him a little bit. But after watching him here at development camp, which I know people, it's not the end all be all, I'm like, okay, I like him a bit more. He was really showcasing his release. He skates better than I thought he did. He has good hockey IQ. He was around the net, especially a lot more these last couple of days. There were parts of his game that I'm like, okay, like I see what the Penguins were going for when they took him here. But that said, this is still very much a project to me. I don't think he is as close to playing as someone like a Ben Kindle or a Bill Zonin are right now. I think those two have a fast track to being in the NHL a bit quicker than Will Horcoff. And that's not a bad thing. Will Horcoff just has to develop a little bit more. Again, development isn't the same for every player. Like, not every player needs, a long time to develop. I think Horcoff, might just a little bit more just because we haven't even seen a full collegiate season from him. But that's my focus for him right now. How does he do in a full collegiate season after joining Michigan last year and playing fairly well, by the way? Like, his draft stock, in my opinion, kind of got better after he joined Michigan and was really good for them. So I want to see what he does in a full season. Other than that, Ryan Miller, again, I thought he was one of the standouts during the scrimmages on Monday. He was all over the ice, had a good release, had 16 goals, 31 points in 50 games. He was one of the Penguins' 5th round picks this past season. He's playing in the University of Denver for 26-27. So that's also a great program, playing for David Carl, the head coach there. That's going to be awesome. So again, I like what he did. You have Cale Dock, remember the 7th round pick in this year's draft. He was really good in the BCHL this past season, 87 points in 54 games. He's playing for the Calgary Hitmen with Ben Kindle this upcoming season. Then he's going to Penn State in 26, 27. More on Penn State in just a second, by the way, because there was some pretty big news on Monday. I thought Cale Dock had a couple of really nice plays on Monday, including one where he went a between the legs pass, Pat, no look, by the way, to set up a scoring chance, just a better save by the goalie. But I felt like that play really needed to be highlighted for this episode because it showcased the skill that he has. Nice little 7th round flyer. Want to see what he does in the WHL after dominating the BCHL. But those were just, again, a couple more players that I felt like had good days on Monday, and I'm curious to see how they do this upcoming season.
Right. And that's something that I want to stress to our audience that you have kind of hit on a couple of times is don't look at development camp as the end all be all, as we have said for the 9 millionth time at this point, but track what these guys do this upcoming year, because while I don't want people to get overly excited and think that, oh, they've found the next great superstar with every single pick, they are going to have very different, very, very non-linear journeys. These guys are going to have good years, bad years, great moments, bad moments, you name it. But you can see that they took chances on players who have had success at certain levels, and they want to see if they can translate that success either into consistency where, okay, this season where they were really good wasn't an outlier, or can they turn that success into success at the next level? And there are a lot of these players that they took in the 25 draft and even the 24 draft that have a lot of raw talent, a lot of skill, a lot of upside. Now the onus is on the player and the organization to take those skills, take that success, and translate it into professional hockey. But are some of these later round picks projects? Absolutely. Even some of their early picks are projects. But you can see the talent. You can see the potential. Now the big challenge is going to see how can Kyle Dubas in this hockey operations department work developmentally, because there's a lot of talent in this system right now. It's not through the roof. You're not going to suddenly see the Penguins jump into the top 5 of the Athletics prospect pool rankings, but there are a lot of gems in the rough right now in the Penguins system that I think could turn into players that become contributors on a contending team in the next 4 to 5 years.
I saw one of the analytic models that someone for Prospect does on Monday on social media. He had the Penguins right around that 16, 17 range. So league average, I felt like that's, compared to where it was 2-3 years ago, I will take that. What are they missing though, Pat? It's that game-changing superstar, that game-changing prospect that can, really be with your organization for, 7 plus, 10 plus, maybe even 15 plus years. Again, going back to Miller and Doc and Horcoff, it's great that they're all going to go to college. Again, with Horcoff, he's going back to Michigan. Ryan Miller, he's eventually going to Denver. That's going to be such a good fit with David Carl, one of the best head coaches that's not in the NHL right now. And I think he is going to be an NHL head coach one day. And then with Cale Dock going to Penn State. Speaking of Penn State, Pat, they got a commitment from the best player in the 2026 NHL Draft on Monday. And we are going to talk about that right after this. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with the new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride in the 9th inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I am part of the action. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, we're back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Hunter Hodes, joined by my co-hosts, Patrick and Pat. We got some major news on Monday. We knew that the Gavin McKenna commitment was coming, and according to Cam Robinson, multiple sources indicate that Gavin McKenna will commit to Penn State University for the 2025-2026 season. He will be choosing Penn State over Michigan State. Those were the final two programs jockeying for his commitment, and it looks like, according to Cam, who is very good, by the way, when it comes to news like this with elite prospects, Gavin McKenna to Penn State. Once this officially gets confirmed, buddy, I might have to buy some tickets right away. Like I am going to go to State College, make the 2.5 to 3 hour drive, and go watch him play, especially, with where the Penguins are going into this season. If they finish in the bottom five, and there is a chance that happens, they will be in the running to go and get Gavin McKenna, a potential generational player in the 2026 NHL Draft. Pat, he is already way too good for junior hockey. Now we will get to see what he does against college players, and I'd like to think he's probably going to dominate in this league as well. But that is big news. And Pat, as our breakdown says, could we see a Penn State to Pittsburgh pipeline here?
We very much could, Hunter, but I can't wait for the inevitable freakouts that we get this upcoming season when we get the Kyle Dubas was spotted at the Pagula Ice Center this weekend as Penn State took on blah, blah, blah. Is he scouting Gavin McKenna? But I mean, this is huge because I want to give a little bit of perspective here to people who may not understand this. And I don't want this to come off as condescending or pretending like I know everything about college hockey, because I very much do not. But I have a unique perspective when it comes to Penn State ice hockey. So for those who may not know, I played collegiate club at IUP for 5 years. Yes, I was a 5-year undergrad student. Make your jokes in the comments. I appreciate those jokes. But I played against Penn State right before they became an NCAA Division I program. If you have ever played hockey at the hockey rink at Penn State that's not the Pagula complex, and you remember those yellow lights, they stay with you forever. But the first year I played against them was 2 years before they had an NCAA program. It was obviously known that they were getting an NCAA program. It was a competitive game. We lost, I think, 5-4 at State College. It was a really good game against a really good team. The next year, 1 year out from getting the NCAA program, we made the United States getting beaten by the Soviets at Madison Square Garden 10-3 look like a competitive game, because all of the prospects and all of the recruits were getting ready and they dog walked us. So the fact that they have gone from starting a new program and now they have this beautiful rink in the Pagula complex. They were in the national semifinal this past season. Now they get Gavin McKenna. It's a testament to what a good job Penn State has done building this program, that not only are they consistently one of the better teams in the nation over the past 5 or 6 years, now they land the most, maybe the most coveted recruit of the last 20 years. So this is going to be really good for his development, I think, because this is not a one-to-one comparison. I know I got to make that caveat quite a lot. It's going to be like what we talked about with Harrison Brunick last episode. Brunick has proven everything he needs to prove at the junior level, and we have that stupid NHL CHL agreement that's going to keep him from going to Wilkes-Barre and playing. McKenna has done everything he can do at the junior level. The guy had 129 points in 56 games last year. I don't think going back to the CHL is going to do anything for his development. So going to the NCAA is going to do a lot for McKenna.
And did you see the point streak he had as well during that time? Yeah, he has nothing left to prove down there. Collegiate hockey, he's probably still going to dominate there. And I can't wait. I literally cannot wait to drive up to State College to watch him play. It's going to be awesome. I'm sure you're going to see a bunch of other Penguins fans there as well for a lot of the games, especially if the Penguins are not very good this upcoming season, which we expect them to not be a playoff team this year. And you also have Jackson Smith that committed to Penn State of the 2025 NHL draft. I agree with you, man. Like the way that the Nittany Lions have been able to really build up this hockey program these last several years has been awesome. And they're going to be a favorite once again to win the national championship going into this upcoming season. And I like that you're seeing, some more of these NHL prospects going to college and playing in college hockey, even if it's just for a year, Pat. Like it's still like it builds up your stock even more. You're playing against, other NHL draft proteges, and it's going to be awesome. Like I really don't have much else to add other than that. It is going to be sick to see him play there.
Well, and I will say this too, along with giving credit to Penn State for building a good program in essentially 10-ish years, because it's only been since about the mid 2010s that they've had an NCAA Division I program for men's ice hockey. It's also, it speaks really highly of the growth of NCAA hockey, because as you said, there were always prospects, both North American and internationally, that went the NCAA route. It's always been a part of the developmental and draft pipeline to the NHL. But as you can see now, especially with Penn State getting McKenna, a lot of players are opting to go that route. It doesn't mean that the CHL is suddenly falling.
And that's good, by the way. Like, I'm glad that more players are going the NCAA route to play against better players. Like, I've made this example when I talk about players in the QMJHL. I feel like the top players there, they have to go to the NCAA to play against better competition. I encourage a lot of these junior players to go play in the NCAA because you're playing against better players. Just continue.
And the other and this is the last point I'll make on this. This is also kind of showing that we have a bit of a different generation of athlete coming to the NHL now, because let's keep this in perspective. McKenna is going to be a very unique case. He's not going to spend 4 years at Penn State. He is not going to play he's not even going to play 2 years. He's going to play next year. He's going to go first overall, and then he's going to go to the NHL. But you see a lot of players realizing that your NHL career on average lasts 5 to 6, maybe 7 or 8 years. And then you've got a life ahead of you. So a lot of these guys are going the collegiate level, getting their degrees, finishing them, playing in the NHL, and then capitalizing on their education. So, because let's also be honest here, this isn't NCAA football. This isn't where essentially you go to, because again, McKenna, unique case. He's going to play 1 year there and then go to the NHL. NCAA football, those guys know that's the minor leagues for the NFL. NCAA hockey, there is no guarantee that you are going to go pro. So you still have to, it's one of the few Division I collegiate sports left where you are truly a student athlete. You're not there just to play your sport. You have to go to the classroom. You have to keep your grades up. You have to walk a mostly straight line. So it's a good thing as a whole for these young guys going to the NCAA.
NIL is still very prevalent for any sport in college, but again, that's just a different discussion for a different day, especially football, basketball, et cetera, et cetera. But no, on the whole, I agree with you. But again, really excited this upcoming fall. If anyone is going to go watch Gavin McKenna at Penn State, let us know in the comments. Let us know which games you're going to go to once this announcement is made official by Penn State. It's going to happen this week. If Cam and others are saying it, it is going to happen, people. But that'll do it for the second segment. Coming up to end the show, a reported Penguins trade target re-signed with his team on Monday. Pat and I are going to discuss that right after this. All right, we're back here in this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Hunter Hodes, joined by my co-hosts, Patrick Damp and Pat. Jack McBain was reportedly a Penguins target, according to Josh Yowie of The Athletic. The Penguins were looking at him to potentially trade for around the time of the 2025 NHL draft. But That is not happening now. McBain has re-signed with the Utah Mammoth, a 5-year deal, $4.25 million per year. Utah actually elected salary arbitration with Jack McBain, but before the two sides even got to that point, they just said, hey, let's just agree to a deal, and that is what they did. So he is off the board, and if Kyle Dubas is looking to potentially trade for a young player at some other point this offseason, Pat, he will now have to look elsewhere. And that's fine with me. I think McBain is fine, but I wasn't over the moon about trading for him.
I was right there with you. I don't dislike McBain as a player. I do think he has value, but I think he's a better fit in Utah with what they have and what they're doing right now than he would be with the Penguins. Essentially, McBain, and again, I don't think he's a bad player. I don't think he's not worth taking a flyer on, but you look at where Utah is compared to where the Penguins are. McBain feels like a complementary piece that you get when you're closer to playoff contention than where the Penguins are right now, because he's a middle to bottom six forward, has some offensive upside, plays a very aggressive game. And not that that wouldn't have value for the Penguins right now, but it fits into the model of a lot of players that we talked about, both UFA, RFA, and trade candidates, where the timeline just didn't quite match up. If we're 2 to 3 years into this rebuild and they're starting to get more talent coming in and they're looking like they're about to round the corner and become a playoff contender again, you go get a McBain and add him to your roster. Right now, when you're still looking for that top tier talent, you're still stockpiling assets and stockpiling prospects. It feels like by the time you get to the contention window, whether that's playoffs or Stanley Cup, McBain probably would have less value to your team if you go get him right now. So this one, I didn't hate the idea, but it just felt like a little too early to go after a player like that.
I think that's fair. I also probably would not have given him 5 years, but that's also just my opinion on the matter. But he's off the market. Kyle Dubas will have to look at other options. And speaking of that, Pat, you look at the free agent market, not much there. And also, I don't really think they should go out and sign too many other free agents unless they're subtracting off the roster trade-wise, like say, one of Raquel or Russ gets traded. You want to go out there and sign Jeff Skinner to a same type of deal that you did for Anthony Mantha, and you want to flip him at the deadline potentially and give him top 6, top 9 minutes. Okay, whatever. I at least will low-key see the vision there. I know Jack Roslovic is out there, but I think if you sign him right now with everyone still on the team, I think you're blocking a spot from some of the younger guys that are trying to make the team, even outside of Koivunen and McGroarty, who I do expect will be on the team this upcoming season. But I still think there are also other young forwards, like a Philip Hollander, by the way, or Tristan Brose, that want to try to make this team out of camp. You already have a surplus of forwards right now after July 1 and July 2 from free agency. So I'm not really sure they want to go out there and sign anyone else to a free agent deal. I just don't really think it makes too much sense. You saw Bowen Byram is now being taken to arbitration by the Sabres. By the way, that means the player and the agent can pick the term of the award. And if Byram and his agent want to be petty, they can just say, we're going to take a 2-year award and we're going to walk right to unrestricted free agency in a couple of years. And then I can just pick my team. We'll have to see if that happens. You're seeing that Buffalo's not getting as much trade interest in him right now. I kind of understand why. Away from Rasmus Dahlin this year, he wasn't that good. I think Buffalo is asking for too much in return, but that's also just me. So, yeah, that's kind of the state of where we are right now, league-wide, free agency-wide. Again, like this is what it's kind of going to look like the rest of this month into August, into early September. Like, yeah, there's some free agents still out there, but a lot of these guys that are out there right now, they're taking their time. They're waiting to see if other teams that are interested in them want to make a move to maybe free up a spot for them. Someone like a Roslovic, someone like a Jeff Skinner. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
The trades have to happen first before anything else, because you brought up the two biggest points. You don't want to block some of the young players that they reportedly want to give a chance to. You obviously want your McGroarty's, your Koivunens, whomever else to get their shot to make the team. And if you go out and get a Jack Roslovic, who is probably the best UFA remaining right now, 22 goals last year, not too bad. You could, if you get him on a 1 to 2 year deal, that's a prime deadline flip. But therein lies the contradiction. It holds up that spot for one of the young guys. Now, obviously, you want to get these older guys who have put up solid numbers that you can flip at the deadline for more young players, more trade assets, more draft picks. But then at the same time, you're blocking those young guys, which I don't think they want to do. So you have to wait until the logjam of trades come through, whether it's moving Rust, whether it's moving Raquel, whether it's moving somebody else out of the bottom six. So realistically, there has to be the first snowflake of the avalanche has to fall here soon, whether it's a Rust trade, a Raquel trade, even one, like I said, one of the bottom six guys, because that's what's holding everything up right now. And when that happens, I do expect you'll see, no pun intended, a flurry of movement, because then things start to get freed up. So to put a fine bow on it, we're unfortunately going to be in a little bit of a dead zone here until these trades happen. But again, I want to stress this to people. We're at the beginning still of this rebuild phase. It's not going to be a flurry of activity. It's not going to get done overnight. Again, Kyle Dubas holds all the leverage here because they're really the only team that's selling. They have all of the leverage, so he can take his time. And I know for us as analysts, and I know for our listeners as fans, and even us as fans, you want your cookies and you want them right now, damn it. But it's unfortunately not the world we're living in.
Fans just have to stay patient, man. I mean, it could be dead for a little bit now, even though we're still technically in early July, but there's still a couple more months until training camp. So there's still a lot of time for moves to happen. A move can happen literally at any time. So just stay by your phone whenever, turn on the notifications for, Elliott Friedman, the Penguins, some of these other accounts as well, all that. But until then, we're just going to be patient and see what happens when it comes to the Penguins, Brian Rust, Rickard Raquel, Erik Karlsson, bottom six player, whoever else potentially that could be on the market. But that will do it for Tuesday's episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. Thank you all so much for taking the time to listen to / watch this one. Pat and I will be back with another show for you all on Wednesday. So for Patrick Damp, I'm Hunter Hodes. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back on Wednesday.